I don't think the disparity should be that big,
It shouldn't be that big.
according to my morals.
Okay, but it is.
Yes.
But I just didn't expect the gap between, I guess, like the top three with like the Asian, white, and Hispanic to be that large just for the median.
They're touching on this issue of generational inequality. And if we don't talk about where we start on the starting line, so he estimates that the losses from unpaid wages, lost inheritances, lost land value, loss of all of the investments that Black Americans have because of slavery, discrimination, Jim Crow, one thing after another, amounts to about, some Black people are lazy, right? Go ahead, you can answer this. Wait, Black people, can he answer it? He's all right, right, bro, right? He can answer this, honestly? He gives you the black thumbs up. I'm not a radical leftist, apologist, woke sociologist who's just trying to make excuses for, we're only right now talking about Black people. He makes excuses for Black people, right? If you watch this class, you know. Take a look at these numbers here in the US, right? 2023, those are some stark differences. So let me be really clear about this. This is net wealth. So this is, if you take all your debt, you add it up, and you take all of your wealth, your major purchases, not little tiny things like your cell phone and that sort of thing, but major purposes and all the money you have and the investments you have in your home and the equity in your home, not just your home. You might live in $1 million house, but the bank might own 700,000 of that. So your wealth is only 300,000 related to your house. Okay, so if you take all of your wealth and you subtract your debt, that's your net wealth. Okay, and so when we do that, the median household wealth, what that means is you line up the wealthiest person at this end, and you start going down, the second wealthiest, third wealthiest, fourth wealthiest, and you go all the way down to the other end, one big line, and it's the poorest person. Let's just take the person in this room, in the room. So the richest person and the poorest person. And we go right to the center, right here, and whatever that number is. So Isabella is right in the center. Half of you are wealthier than Isabella, half of you are poorer than Isabella. And then we ask Isabella, okay, what's your net wealth? What's your net worth? And whatever that number is, that's the median household net worth, okay? Are we good? Assuming that she's her own household. When you see those differences in numbers, where's your mind go? What do you think?
It makes sense, I think, given what I know, like Native Americans are probably they are the most oppressed group in the US historically.
Yeah, so, and that got messed up. That 25,000 is an estimated number because I can't get that number, but I was just sort of going to lots of different places and estimating. Okay, so go ahead.
I don't think the disparity should be that big.
It shouldn't be that big.
According to my morals.
Okay, but it is.
Yes.
Okay, so one thing that you think is, yeah, that's really, really disparate, man. There's some big differences in those numbers. Isabella, how about you when you see those numbers? What jumps out for you?
I mean, when I see those numbers, I think my head goes straight to like the way that like redlining, if that sense, works, and like the way that income cycles generationally with like where people live and education, and like how the disparities in like I guess the same neighborhoods where through generations.
Generation after generation.
Yeah.
Did you expect Asians to be on top?
I mean, I feel like I have like seen like similar statistics to these before.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I feel like it's, at least from my perspective, a lot about like higher education and like who is able to obtain higher education in the United States and how that, like, I guess directly relates back to wealth.
I would say comparing the bottom three with the Hispanic, Black, and Native American, I was more surprised at how like close they are, and then the massive gap it looks like between the median wealth from them to whites and then Asians up top. I feel like it could factor in about the proportion of each race going in there, where it could happen to be where more Asians just happen to have more of that wealth, and then the median just happens to be that large of a number. And then there's just a lot of the white people and a lot of Hispanics that are just closer to that value. But I just didn't expect the gap between, I guess, like the top three with like the Asian, white, and Hispanic to be that large just for the median.
Do you, Hank, can you, okay, can you explain why the Asian number is so high? Do you have an explanation in your head? Dude, by the way, first off, how old are you? 18?
Yes.
All right, man, you're 18. You just
Yes.
came off to college. You're a cybersecurity major, okay? Now I'm asking you this question. Can you explain why that number, the median household net wealth for Asians in the US, which includes South Asians, Pacific Islanders, and East Asians, why it's so high?
I think a big part of it is that Hispanic, Black, and Native American people, they have kind of come here not entirely of their own volition, or they live in this system not entirely of their own volition. A lot of Asians come here, they have like some sort of financial security, or they have something they want to do here specifically.
Okay.
They immigrate with a purpose, but a lot of Black people here, like they came as slaves, and then even after slavery, they kind of still live in that system of oppression that doesn't really let them escape being in a more higher wealth, higher income household. And then same for Hispanic and Native American.
Wait, system of oppression, but some Black families are in the
Yes,
the upper 1% or 10%.
Yeah, and in the same way, some Asians are in the bottom 1%, some Korean, Taiwanese Asians.
Okay. All right. Yeah, listen, you got it. Also, it's fairly recent. The Asian migration into the United States is very, and increasingly what we're seeing with Asian. So, by the way, here's the thing. Just when we look at Black people who identify as Black in the United States, the highest net worth is among Africans. Because, to get here from Africa, first off, just a quick thing, nobody really wants refugees. Nations accept refugees, and they accept poor people. They accept refugees when they really have to, and they accept poor people when it's in really their interest to accept poor people, or when they have to. But nations want educated people who can come, contribute, and then go home if they want, back and forth. That's why Trump is offering these visas for $100,000. Or what is it, the new visa for like $1 million? So anybody can come here. We'll give you a visa right away. He gives them $1 million. And there are a lot of people who are like, all right, we got $1 million. And Africans, if you're living in Mexico or Central America, you can, historically speaking, sneak over the border. You don't have to have anything. You need, you don't even need $5 in your pocket. But you're not going to get here from Africa if you don't have money. And so what we see is Africans, highly educated, much wealthier, who are immigrants from Africa. So it's like when we look at Black people, it's like, you got to really divide that up. Well, the same is true for Asians. The large segment of Asian migration in the United States are people with money and people with who are coming to go to school, and then they stay here, and they're going to professional school, and so on and so forth. And so it's like you just see this income and wealth get really high among Asians because of the exceptional education and wealth and professionalism and so on, right? So that's one of the reasons that that's so high. Whereas all the other groups, you have a much longer period. Although Black net wealth is going up tremendously in the past 20 years, even though it still looks really low because of Africans. because of the contribution of Africans. Okay, let me ask you this question, Isabella. How much does discrimination, when you look at those numbers, how much is that caused by discrimination? You had to guess. Like you look, you're just looking at it on your own. You're thinking, right now you're thinking out loud. Isabella, I look at those numbers. They're pretty great. They're really different. How much is discrimination part of that? Because it could just be, yeah, well, Asians just work really hard, and Native Americans don't work really hard, and black people don't work as hard as Hispanics, and Hispanics don't work as hard as white people, and white people don't work as hard as Asians. It's kind of like that, and they make really dumb decisions. Native Americans, black people, Hispanic people, they just make a lot of dumb decisions, so there's the reason. But how much do you think is discrimination? Where does that play in?
I mean, I feel like you said that these numbers are going up, but they're like historically, I guess, pretty similar to this. Would you say?
Yeah.
Yeah. And like everyone gets like their start, their foundation from the money from their family.
Yeah.
Like even just like access to like something that would let you become richer is from something like generationally wise for, I guess, majority of people.
So for you, that's really important. The generational wealth.
And we know, I mean, yeah, maybe in the past 20 years it's gotten better, but I mean, relatively, there's discrimination affects these numbers largely.
Well, no, especially for Asians, by the way. Here's the thing in the United States, that number for Asians has been higher, but in the past 10 years, it's really gone up because so many people of Asian ancestry are coming here only with degrees. Like, dude, we don't let poor Indians in here at Dej, I know. Like, Dej is here, but he's an international student at Penn State. His family has money. But some Indian from the village isn't here. I don't know anything about his family, but I know they have money because he's here. Of course they have money, right? But to somebody from some village, they're not here. They're not getting a visa to come to Penn State. So what we're seeing is this accumulation of wealth and so on, and just in the past 10, 15, 20 years, like we're seeing with Africans.
Well, I really want to keep piggybacking on the whole topic of generational wealth, since I feel like, especially with Native Americans, a lot of these other races and people had to they were given the option of either to adapt to what we offer and how it is to succeed in America, or stay with your values and either just stay behind or just catch up later. So at least how whites have always been just here, it's like you have that time to build up the wealth. And especially in other Asian countries like Japan and China, there's a really high kind of impulse for you to be educationally sound before you even come over. So then that kind of leads up to having the median household wealth be so much higher than even the whites that have been here for considerably longer than them.
So is it surprising to you that Native Americans are at the bottom? Does that surprise you?
Not entirely. I guess seeing the value puts it into a different perspective, but since they were really the first group that were here and then we had to take them out, that really just speaks for itself.
Well, I mean, they were if you think about the native peoples in the Americas, throughout the Americas, from Canada on down to Chile, in a way, it's been called the longest, most extensive genocide in human history. And here, so I guess it wouldn't be surprising that they would be at the bottom. They're touching on this issue of generational inequality. And if we don't talk about where we start on the starting line, we cannot understand where people are on the finish line. So if you have a 100-meter race and we've got 10 runners and they all are starting at a different starting line, then we have to assume that unless one of them is the fastest person in the world and the other ones are slow, it matters where people are. And so what I'm going to show now is some numbers that this professor of public policy calculated for black people in the United States. Okay, because we always want to understand black people. Why? What's happened with black people? People will say, slavery was over in 1865, or the civil rights movement happened in 1964. Like, why haven't black people been able to catch up? What's the problem? And the problem is that where you start impacts where you end up. So I'm going to give this number by this guy who's not woke by any stretch. He is an academic who's really doing his best to come up with a calculation for a number, the amount of money that black people lost because of the racism and treatment and discrimination of black people. And we're just going black people. He just did this with black Americans. He didn't do it with Native Americans. He didn't do it with the early Chinese. He didn't do it with Chicanos and Mexican Americans. He just did it with black Americans. And he said, so here's the thing, right? Okay, so got it? So he estimates that the losses from unpaid wages, lost inheritances, lost land value, loss of all of the investments that black Americans have because of slavery, discrimination, Jim Crow, one thing after another, amounts to about $20 trillion. $20 trillion, man. $20 trillion. And that if black people had not been had black people been brought to the United States and treated equally as white people, equally, okay? Forget about discrimination of white people. Italians were discriminated against. Irish were discriminated against. Slavs were discriminated against. It's not chance that when we add up different ethnic groups in the United States, the Poles and the Slavs and the Italians are poorer than people with English ancestry and Germanic ancestry. It's not chance. Of course they are, because that's that long history, right? But we're right now just talking about black people. So when you talk about generational inequality, I found this number by this guy. And I think, well, I've never calculated this number. I've known it was large, and maybe it's not quite that large. Maybe it's only $10 trillion. So all of white wealth today is $125 trillion. So black people also, this isn't just black wealth. I mean, black people have a certain base of wealth also. It's nothing close to white wealth because there are 13% of the population in the U.S. is black, and 58% or 59% is white. So white people are, of course, going to have more wealth. But when you think, and I'm liking that the three of you are talking about discrimination and generations. If black Americans have been paid equally, on average to white people were not paid equally, okay? Every group was discriminated against in one way or the other. But had black Americans been paid what they were worth, $20 trillion in 2015, so I don't know what it would be today. So now can we go back to this number? What would those numbers be? What's that number? What would that number be? Think about that. Like, we wouldn't be talking about first off, we wouldn't be talking about inequality like we do today. Some black people are lazy, right? Go ahead, you can answer this. Wait, black people, can he answer it? He's all right, right, bro, right? He can answer this, honestly? He gives you the black thumbs up. Some black people are lazy, right?
I mean, everyone's lazy.
All right, so some black people are lazy. Some black people are stupid, right? Go ahead.
Yes.
Some black people are really dumb with how they handle their money, right?
Yes.
Okay. Some black people make really stupid decisions in life. Am I correct?
You are.
All right. So in that sense, black people are just like everybody else, right?
Yes.
And maybe black people make, on average, some dumber decisions than other people. Who knows? I don't know. We can't add up all the decisions, but let's just add it up, right? Maybe they do a little bit dumber, right?
Get away, close.
Bro, is he all right? Can he say that? We're good?
You gotta ask someone else.
Give a thumbs up. No, you're good. No, you're the only one.
You gotta speak for the class.
Yeah, no, that's all right. All right. You got it? It's good. But here's the thing. Do the differences in black behavior amount, can you go forward again? Amount to $20 trillion.
I wish I could tell you, because I really can't.
Well, you can tell me it doesn't amount to that.
Really doesn't, yeah.
There's no way. Like if we say, hey, listen, black people, y'all, if you would have just forget about everything that was taken that was denied to you, okay? Everything that was denied to you, all the wages, all the land, all of the money that was just stripped away, one thing after another. Forget about all that for a second. If you just would have worked a little harder, we wouldn't see that kind of inequality. Or we can say, $20 trillion, man. That's a lot of money. That's a lot of money. So when I look, can you go backwards? When I look at that, I think I can't look at those numbers and not think about discrimination. It's just not possible. How can you not? That's the $20 trillion is discrimination. You know what I mean? Like, that's what that is. I'm not a radical leftist, apologist, woke sociologist who's just trying to make excuses for, we're only right now talking about black people. He makes excuses for black people, right? If you watch this class, you know I'm not this radical leftist who's woke and like, oh my God, I'm jamming inequality and all that stuff down people's throats. But I don't know how to make sense of 20 trillion. And let's say it's not 20 trillion. Let's say this guy made a mistake. He actually thinks that it's a conservative number, and he's really thoughtful. So let's say it's 10 trillion. $10 trillion.
I think if someone told me that, I would believe it, I guess. I would think it makes sense. I think the red bottom for white wealth kind of puts it in perspective and helps you understand it more, I guess.
Yeah, but understand, there are a lot more white people than black people. Okay, so that's not... I only put that number up there so you had some sense of what we're looking at. I could have just put the whole wealth of the United States, but I didn't. But keep that in mind, right?
But I think it makes sense.
Do you feel like I'm being apologetic for black people? Like I'm making excuses for black people somehow?
Okay, like, yeah.
You don't hear me saying that? Yeah, I'm not saying we should give black people $20 trillion. Like, hey, black people in here, I'm not going to be lining up to give you to give you and people of your ancestry group, whatever it is, I'm not going to be signing on to give you $20 trillion. Okay? That's not going to happen. But in fairness, that's a lot of money, man. And white people, everybody else, that $20 trillion, what that meant is that went into people that look like me. That's some, you could call this some kind of affirmative action for my people. Because we didn't give it to them, we took it from them, just like we took the land from Native Americans and we did, but I get that. Like, that's a benefit. It's like, there's nothing you can do about it. We can't give it back. It's not like reparations. What are we going to do? We're going to just give everyone money? We're not going to do that. But what it does is, for me, it helps me to understand some of what the inequality is.
I feel like just trying to put that big of a number like in your own perspective really, I wouldn't say it makes it harder to understand, right? Since you're just trying to think about where did 20 trillion just disappear off to, but you go all the way back then and they were they're supposed to, just weren't given the same benefits that other people were given, then it just adds up for how long they've been in the country for. and then comparing that to what the white wealth is, I guess, of 2015, then it's really marginal gap that almost reinforces the idea.
Yeah, and then so then we have new immigrants. We have new African immigrants, Latino immigrants, Middle Eastern immigrants, Asian immigrants who migrate. So look, man, did your parents come here for school?
My dad came here for his school, and my mom just came here, I guess.
Okay, so they come for school. They came here, and they didn't go like to Egypt for school, right? Your dad didn't go to, I don't know, Venezuela or Ecuador for school. He came to the U.S. for school. And in coming to the U.S., he was able to come, he came to this really advanced educational system. And then he was able to leverage that because here you are in the largest economy in the world. So he happened to come here. And then he just kind of slid into this economy. And now you make a life here in the economy. It's like, oh, okay, which is great. Good for him, good for your family, good for you, right? But what it means is you kind of slide into this at a different level. Like, okay, so that's an advantage. All right. And by the way, I need to say something about black people in the U.S. Half of all black Americans are middle class, man. Don't think black and think poor.